morning, you guys. It might be afternoon for you, or maybe it's nighttime. I don't know. But welcome to the Phoenix Rising podcast. I skipped a week. I know. I'm sorry. It has been very busy and there's been a lot going on. This time of year is busy for everybody with holidays and just transitions. And instead of just like forcing an episode, I always like to make these and create content from places that I truly feel inspired to talk about. So I just skipped a week. No big deal. I'm back. You're okay. And we're going to dive right into this. So normally I have like a whole list of content ideas just based on questions that I get working with clients, a lot of things that repeatedly come up with people. And it's always like fitness, nutrition, mindset, life questions. And this time of year, I was going to say, like, I always like to do this, but this is the first year I've done this podcast. So it's more so I always like to do this for myself. And most people this time of year start to really reflect on what they have done, what they haven't done over the course of the last year, with New Year's coming up, what they want to change, how they want to improve, and what new goals they want to set. So for this podcast episode, I decided to take some time to just share with you some of the top lessons that I have personally learned from 2021. And that has also come up as different recurring themes with a lot of clients that I've worked with. So hopefully it helps you. Maybe some of it you can adopt and just take it as your own lesson as well to move forward as we're nearing the end of this wonderful year. And yeah, hopefully it just helps you really connect deeper with yourself, maybe think a little bit differently and give you some ideas to move forward. So, welcome to the Phoenix Rising podcast. Before we get started on that, if you are new, thank you so much for being a part of this. If you're looking for a fitness, mindset, and nutrition coach to help you hit your goals, head on over to ashleydrummonds.com. Not only will you see the different sections where you can set up a call to talk to me and work with me as your coach, you'll also see every single episode I've ever done of this podcast. The content's 100% free, so you can check it out, get a feel out, see if you like what I'm all about, and then we can discuss working together. So again, that's ashleydrummonds.com. All right, so to kind of get started, none of these are in any particular order at all. This is genuinely just, I spent some time the last week and a half, 2 weeks, thinking about like, all right, this year is coming to a close. What have I learned this year? Where did I, quote unquote, fail? Not really fail, but where did I fall short that I want to improve on next year? And you know, life is kind of funny because I feel like some years when you look back and you reflect, you just have these years that it's like, you feel like it's just a climb up the mountain. It's just a never ending climb. And some years are like that. You have years that it feels like you've been at war and at battle all year long. And then you have other years where you're just enjoying the view from the top. It's just one victory, success after another, and you're just coasting and life is fantastic. And you can't imagine anything going wrong. And then the next year, everything goes wrong. That's probably not just this year. One of the biggest lessons that I have learned, and along with like clients, because I think as humans, our natural tendency is to discover what is safe, discover what feels good, and then we try to hold on to that for as long as possible. And anytime that mountain starts to get an incline, or we no longer are just enjoying the view and we realize like, oh wait, this wasn't the top. This was just a meadow at the very top of this mountain, but now I got to go climb another mountain to get past this point. Anytime we start to experience that, we grasp, we clutch, we hold on to where we are because we're like, no, this is so nice and safe and comfortable though. I don't feel like going through a hard time. I don't feel like growing and evolving and doing the work. I want to just sit here and enjoy it. And I think the greatest thing that like can keep you from, let's see, what's the word? From freaking out, from spiraling, from getting stuck, is realizing that life is never going to always be good and it's never always going to be bad. That's the beautiful thing. It's as bad as something is, it can and will turn around. And as great as something is, it also can and will turn around. And on this note, the one of the things I was going to share is the greatest book this year that I have read has definitely been the one that you guys have heard me quote. I think it's The Art of Living. The Art of Living, and then In Love with the World. So it's by the exact same guy. So The Art of Living is basically, his name is Yonggi Mingyur. It's a monk who spent years learning all about mindset and meditation and self-awareness. So Art of Living is when he has spent 30 something years like learning these things. He shares with you the way he teaches people about self-awareness and evolution and growing and the mind and the point of meditation and all that. My absolute favorite book, though, that he wrote is his memoir called In Love with the World, where he actually takes these principles and practices at 36 and he leaves the monastery and he tries to apply them to real life. And it's a wonderful book because he's so transparent about the struggles he experienced in the real human life outside of this protection of the safety of a monastery, of not having any real problems. And then when he does have real problems, he's like, holy shit, meditation is really hard in the midst of chaos and anxiety and feeling claustrophobic and not knowing where I'm going to sleep and not knowing how I'm going to eat my food and all that. And it's kind of like, gives you a lot of solidarity because you're like, yeah, see, even this enlightened master in Buddhist meditation has hard times sometimes. So I really appreciated it just because, one, the way his mind works in this book and how he processes experiences trying to master his mind felt like a kindred soul because it's a lot of how my mind works, but also just having somebody so incredibly experienced and enlightened experience the exact same struggles that we do. So yeah, so this year, that's my favorite book. I've read it like 2 or 3 times and I swear I've underlined the whole thing. It's called In Love with the World and it's by Yonggi Mingyur. Anyways, my point in that, going back to the beginning of this about how we grasp and we hold on to the good times. We hold on to the good times and we try to escape what we know is coming, the hard times. In his book, he talks about impermanence and that the more comfortable we get with impermanence, the less suffering we experience in life. And it's simply the lesson of understanding the only thing that's constant is change. Nothing ever remains the same. And I always use nature as a reference. Things grow, then they die. Leaves change colors and then they fall off and then they blossom again. Like change is always happening. Our bodies are changing, our environments, our jobs, our families, our situations, money, everything. And his whole point is if you can learn to keep a steady mind in the midst of impermanence, then nothing outside of you can ever truly threaten you. And it's true because we're constantly giving away our power to the things that are outside of ourselves. And one of the things that I do with my clients during their workouts, and these are, so I have virtual clients and I have in-person people that I work with, but I always like to have them do a little bit of mindset stuff before we get started so they can understand the intention behind the strength training is so much more than just we're going to work out really hard and get strong. Yes, we're going to do that. But so one of the mantras I've been giving clients is before we start, I want you to repeat to yourself mentally, nothing outside of you is stronger or more powerful than what is inside of you. So that way, when you start doing the workout, you're like, God, this freaking sucks. The weight is heavy. I'm tired. I don't want to do this. You tell yourself, look, are you seriously going to tell me that this is the hardest thing you're ever going to experience in life? This 30 seconds of this interval, this set number 3, you're so much stronger than that. Nothing outside of you can ever have greater power than what is inside of you. The problem is, though, we forget this and we think that all of our power comes from things outside of ourselves. So every time there's change, every time there's disruption, every time things start to get uncomfortable, we immediately shell up, we close ourselves off, and we try to find a safe space to avoid the disruption because we think the external circumstances are what are creating, either giving or taking away our well-being, our happiness, and our power. So when you learn that it's all internal, and you choose and practice keeping a steady mind in the midst of change and discomfort and impermanence, then you hold all your power within you and you start to realize like, oh, this is life. Me changing what I believe and changing how I feel about myself and changing my overall experience based on what happens outside of me is like choosing that you're going to be happy when it's sunny, but you're not going to be happy when it rains. You have no control over the weather, but you're allowing it to change how you set your day. So that would be lesson number one that I would say over the course of this year and over the course of just life in general. I try, and it's a natural human tendency. When things are good, I'm like, okay, things are really good right now. What have I done to make it this good? And how can I keep doing this so I never experience pain again? And now when I think this way, or I find myself thinking this way, it makes me laugh because it's like, Ashley, you know, things change so fast all the time. Do not get caught up in the illusion that you can close your hand and grab onto this experience and it's not going to slip away from you. So I have these notes in my phone of the different lessons that I've learned. And I guess if I had to put this into like a line, pretty much the better you get at opening your hands and keeping your hands open and letting go, the easier life will flow. When we feel stuck, it usually comes from a refusal of both allowing what wants to come in, but also allowing what wants to leave. Because we're simply looking for a safe place to cling to that won't cause us fear, anxiety, and discomfort. And this happens all the time. So if there's anything right now when you're like, okay, it's the end of the year, I know there's some stuff I want to work on and I want to move forward, and you already know what you need to do or what you want to do, but you find yourself not really moving in that direction, usually it stems from fear of letting go of everything you've been clinging to. So the better you can get, and I mean, you can literally do a meditation like this, and sometimes I do, where I will just sit and I will breathe and I will hold both my hands open and I will like focus on exhaling. Because a lot of times our breath is representation of how we're going through life. If you shorten your breath, if you're holding your breath, if you're tense, if you're not fully exhaling, there's a part of you that's afraid to let go. So even if it's just 5 minutes, if you just sit there and you open your hands and you take a big inhale and then completely exhale, you are practicing the process of letting go and allowing breath to flow, allowing life to flow, allowing what wants to come in with open hands, but also allowing what needs to leave that no longer serves you to leave freely without grasping onto it. So that's lesson number one, which is kind of the perfect segue into lesson number two. Lesson number two, again, this is this year. So this year has been a lot of lessons and challenges for me. Hasn't been a year full of success and victory. I will be completely transparent on that. It hasn't been like, yes, everything is working out perfectly, even though in the big picture of life, I'm confident that it is. It's just the experience of this year has not felt that way. So I have practiced, like repeating to myself of keep my hands open, keep my heart open, keep my mind open, allow what wants to come in, and allow what wants to leave that no longer serves me to leave. I trust the flow. I trust the process. So it leads me into this lesson of anytime you are having a struggle or you are in the midst of a struggle, you have to find purpose in the struggle. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when we're in struggles, we let the struggle define us, or we get caught up in thinking that it's never going to end. Where if you can learn to use struggle as a lesson or as an experience, trusting that it is serving some sort of purpose, the struggle becomes your ally instead of this like overpowering, overwhelming force that you just can't seem to get out of. That's the thing, is like we get in these struggles and it feels heavy. It like literally sometimes can feel like you're suffocating, like you're in this box and you're in this room and the pressure is just building and building and building. And you can allow it to do that, or you can shift your mindset to believe like, all right, if I truly believe that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and if I truly believe that everything happens for me, not against me. And if I truly believe that I'm a powerful being, person who is here to experience things in life, to grow and evolve from them, then I would not be in this experience of this struggle if it was not in some way serving me either as a teacher or to help me discover something in myself that I did not know was there in spite of this struggle. So, for example, there's this saying of like, I didn't know how strong I was until strong was the only choice that I had. Sometimes we experience these pressures and these struggles to help us go within, but we get trapped when we're going without. We're like in this search and this chaos and this storm and swirling around, and we get caught up in the storm instead of sitting in the middle, sitting in the eye of it and remembering like, oh, wait, this is all around me and outside of me. So maybe the whole lesson is simply that, of just to go inward. Or maybe it's a lesson. This struggle is simply forcing you to take a risk, to take a leap of faith, to listen to your gut, to trust your intuition. And then when things work out, when you listen to your intuition, maybe that's your whole lesson that you needed to discover, of trust yourself, listen to yourself, follow the inner GPS that is always guiding you to the absolute best path for you. I was telling somebody this the other day. I was like, look, you have to find purpose in your struggle. Everything you're in. I don't care if your purpose is as small as simply just, I'm here to just say hi to somebody. It doesn't matter. Maybe your purpose is what you're going through right now. You're going to find a way out, and then you're going to help other people who are going through that to find a way out. Maybe your purpose in the struggle is to discover self-love, but the main thing is you have to find something that serves you in it. Otherwise, the experience has more power and control over you instead of serving you. So this is kind of a belief system. So when you're in these things and you're feeling stuck and you just can't see a way out, or you're just, like I said, this year, it's like lesson after lesson after lesson. When you're in those things, you have to develop and consistently establish the belief system in your mindset of, all right, I know there is something that is helping me in this. I know this serves a purpose. I know I'm going to come out of this stronger, wiser, more experienced, more aware, and more powerful than when I started this experience. I know this is just a natural course of life that is helping navigate me through whatever I need to go through in order to get me to where I'm supposed to be. If you go through struggles in your life with this mindset, you will always come out the other side in a better place. But if you sit in the struggle thinking you're stuck, or thinking in some way you're being punished, or it doesn't serve you, or you're scared, or whatever, you will stay there and you're never going to get out. So practice. If you're having like a great life right now, totally disregard this lesson number 2. But if you have found yourself in the midst of chaos and struggle for a long time, start telling yourself, all right, I know this serves a purpose. How can I find purpose in the midst of struggle? How can I see that this experience is serving me in a positive way? What am I learning about myself through this struggle? Do I tend to take the safe route when I get scared? Maybe this is about me having confidence in myself and breaking free of that pattern. Whatever it is, only you can discover it, but it is up to you to shift your mindset and believe that it is actually helping you instead of you being helpless to whatever experience is going on. All right, that was a lot, but moving on. So next lesson. This is kind of just, I've talked about this so many times. Honestly, the more you can live in the present moment, the more free you are going to be. Every time I am stuck, every time I am not sure what to do, and I'm trying to search for an answer, and I can't come up with an answer, it's usually not because I don't have an answer, but it's because I am trying to get an answer from my past, or I am trying to create an answer for my future that avoids pain and mistakes from my past, if that makes sense. So let's say let's do job. Job is an easy one. It's a neutral situation. let's say you're sitting here and you're trying to make a career transition. And this has been a topic in other podcast episodes that we've done. So you're sitting here, you're in this job and you're like, what should I do? What should I do? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. And you're struggling because nothing really feels right. Probably because you're not actually asking the question from who you are right now, today. You're asking the question and trying to find the answer based on the previous experiences that you've had. So I used this before of if you've spent 5 years in one role, let's say you spent 5 years as you're a house cleaner. You clean houses. This is what you do. So for 5 years, all you know is how to clean houses, but you're feeling like it's time for a change. So you're sitting here in the present moment and you're asking like, what should I do? What's the best path? What direction should I head? Except for your mind is living in the past of like cleaning houses. Maybe I'll switch to cleaning apartments. Maybe I'll switch to cleaning corporations, but it's so stuck in the past because all it's thinking about is the 5 years of experience as house cleaning that you have. When in reality, in the present moment, there may be something right in front of your face that is super obvious that is trying to guide you. Or you're super present in the moment asking this question and you get an answer, but in order to move forward, this answer, you're like, ooh, no, that sounds super scary though. What if I do this and then in the future, it doesn't work out and I fail? Or what if I do this and I run out of money? Or what if I do this and I don't like the new career? So instead of listening to that, you end up staying stuck because now you're trying to avoid things in the future while being in the present. And I know this is kind of like a lot of circles of going around, but so the more present you can be, the more free you will be. So I do this little trick where if I'm doing this and I try to be as aware of when I'm doing this as I can. So if I'm asking a question of like, all right, I feel like I want to do something and move forward in my career. I want to do something different. I don't know what though. So help me figure this out. And my mind immediately goes to fitness and personal training because that's what I've done the most with. And I know this about myself now that I'm like, okay, I'm willing to let go. And I'll tell my mind this because your mind plays tricks on you. If you can subtly suggest something instead of like, no, we're not doing fitness. If you're like, I am willing to let go of the idea of fitness to get the clear answer of what direction I should head, then your mind kind of opens up and relaxes a little bit because it doesn't feel threatened by letting go of an identity that it knows. Instead, it's like, okay, that doesn't sound threatening. I can be willing to open my mind up. So I'll do that and I'll sit with the question. Or the other thing I do is I'll quiet my mind. I'll sit there. I'll focus on my breath. And then this is so stupid, but it works. I'm telling you, it works. I'll ask myself like, okay, if I had no memory of my past, if I was like in a movie or in a game where I just woke up instantly in this moment, in this body, and I have no idea who I am, where I am, I'm like experiencing this personality, this mind, this body for the very first time. Almost like if you had amnesia, you're coming out of a coma and you can't remember anything. If that was this experience and that's all I know is this moment, what choices would I make? And sometimes it can just help open your mind up. And I was joking with actually my brother because I was telling him how I had something similar to this a year ago where I was like, God, I just feel like it feels like I'm like shedding old skin, but I'm not totally sure what I'm moving into. And I'm like sitting in this meditation and I had done this consistently for weeks of just like, okay, I have no past. Like my past literally does not exist. All I have is the person that I am in this moment right now. What do I want to do? And I kept doing this over and over and over again. And there was one morning where I'm sitting on the floor in my room and I'm like breathing and I'm like totally in the zone in this meditation. And I wake up with this like, it's not hypnosis, but like this mindset training. And I'm looking around my room and I have like this tealish, bluish color comforter set. And I see it and I'm like, WTF, whose comforter set is this? Blue is not my color. I love red. I've always been red. When I was a kid, I used to like paint my walls red and like buy dark red and light red and like red has always been my color. Why the hell is my entire room like this teal blue color? And like in that moment, I like pulled the comforter off my bed. I went to the store. I bought something that fit me way better. It was like so weird. It was like I woke up like, whose life is this? And same thing. I think I've told you guys this story. It's the same thing with wine. I like woke up and I had all this wine. And again, this was last year and I don't have any problems with wine. Like you guys have heard my other podcast about how I like did all the courses and certifications and whatever. But this same day I woke up and I was like, I don't even drink that much. Like I rarely drink these days. Why do I have so much wine? Why has this become such a huge part of my life? And like the next day I was like, all right, I'm done with it. Like I'm selling all my wine. I'm selling my wine cooler. I'm selling all my books, everything. I'm done. And it was so weird. And like in that moment I realized, and like looking back, I know where all of that came from. I know the story and the emotional connections of what created all those things. But it took me literally practicing if I had no past, if I was just me, who I am today, with the talents, the passions, the skills, the personality, everything right now, who would I be? And then it's just funny how when you do that and you live fully in the present moment, you're like, oh my God, so much of my choices have been dictated by my past. This is nuts. So what are we on? Number 3? I think that's lesson number 3. The more present you can be, the more free your life becomes. All right, lesson number 4. What is truly meant for you will find you no matter what. You cannot lose it. You can't outrun it. You can't chase it and make it show up faster. But the things that truly belong to you in this life, a job, an opportunity, a person, a place, an experience, a lesson, it will find you no matter what. I believe that our greatest responsibility in life is simply to listen to our gut and trust our intuition. And that is the way, call it God, call it the universe, call it source, call it whatever you want. That is the way it communicates with us to navigate us to the path that is going to be the best expression of who we are with everything that lines up with that. So with that in mind, when you start to get scared or you're worried about like making the wrong choice, going in the wrong direction, totally effing up. When all these things happen, I believe that right or wrong, make a choice. If it's wrong, you're going to know right away and then it can be corrected. If it's right, you're also going to know right away. Or maybe you'll know in time. You'll look back and you'll see that. But make a choice trusting that if it's yours, it's yours. Even if you make the wrong choice, it'll correct itself and it'll come back around and it'll fix it. It's okay. It frees you. But also, I mean, some of us just like really need to get off our high horse. And I'm speaking to myself too. We are all on this planet coming from the same source of, again, call it creator, call it the universe, whatever. We have these human bodies that basically like keep our souls from exploding. Like think about how powerful your soul is. You know, the universe is like, I'm going to put this soul inside this shell of this human body so that it can contain itself without totally like exploding because of its power. However, we kind of forget about this and we get caught up in things outside of ourselves. But anyways, my whole point of this is that thing of your soul comes from something huge, something that each of us are connected to. So when our little human brains try to convince us that we can make a choice, like we have that much control. And I always think about, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. If we think really like, okay, let's say you took a job, probably wasn't the best job for you. Do you really think that the universe is that weak and that not magical or powerful or smart enough? I always think of it like a parent, but much bigger than a parent, because it's almost like, all right, it's almost like if your 5-year-old kid, I don't have kids, so I'm just assuming this is what it would be like. If I had a 5-year-old kid and this kid is so stubborn and is just so convinced that it knows more about life than I do. And it's like, you know what? No, I know I can fly. I am jumping off the roof of this house right now, and I'm going to prove to you that I can fly. I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to totally destroy this kid's self-belief. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to secretly sneak a trampoline underneath where this kid thinks it's going to fly. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I totally got you. I believe in you. You can do anything in this life. You're right. And then when that kid jumps off the roof, instead of it making the wrong choice of like, crap, though, this soul forgot it's in a human body that weighs a lot and has laws of gravity. I'm going to throw that trampoline underneath the kid. It's going to hit the trampoline and it's going to bounce high. And this kid thinks it's flying when I'm like, yeah, no, you can't really fly. I kind of helped you out though. Like it felt like it though, right? Like I totally saved your ass when you made the wrong choice. It's okay. That's how I think the universe works, where it's like, yeah, no, I can totally see how you think this is the right choice. I can see how your mind has convinced you that this is the right place to go. And you know what? I totally support you, human. You go right ahead and you make that choice. You've got this. And then we do it. We jump off the roof and the universe is like, and in comes the trampoline so they don't totally face plant and ruin their life. That is how I think life works. So when you're trying to make choices, trust that what's meant for you is going to find you. And if you are about to jump off a cliff or the roof of a house and make a really stupid decision, please believe that the universe has so much more power than we give it credit. And you can go ahead and jump off that roof. Don't be scared. Here you go. Here's your trampoline. Look, you kind of are flying. But also, like, next time, can you just listen to me when I try and guide you? And I'm like, hey, maybe we don't jump. Maybe we try a different path. Like, let's discover some other skills. I totally congratulate you for all your confidence and belief, but let's try something else. So that's a really cheesy analogy I'm very aware of. But when it comes around to like when you're scared of making decisions, when you're scared and you don't know what to do, or you're trying to get through something or make some sort of direction, especially at the end of this year and moving into a new year, and you're trying to go down the quote unquote right path, just make the choice that feels most right in your gut. Sometimes logic is not necessarily in alignment with your gut, and you got to trust the part of you. You're like, I know this makes no sense, but it feels right. It feels like what I'm supposed to do. Those are the choices that you make with that. And when you do that, you just keep in mind, like, look, I'm doing this, makes no sense, but I trust that I will end up where I am supposed to be. I trust that I'm protected. And if it's the wrong choice, I will be redirected to the right choice. What's meant for me is going to find me. I cannot lose it no matter what. So that would be the other lesson that I would say this year has continually come up, not just for myself, but for a lot of people that I've been talking to. All right, so lesson number 5, this will be the last lesson. Some of the greatest healers that I have found in life, not just this year, but just over the course of my life, that are always in my little imaginary toolbox, are nature, movement, breath, music, and pen and paper. So the reason I love these as healers is because nature, and if you're in nature, I mean truly in it, like in nature without your phone, without music, without disruption. But like if you truly take the moment to be present, if you're taking a walk, if you're by the water, if you're hiking, whatever it might be, and you just be in it, it is so healing because you realize it just puts things into perspective of like, and I make posts about this on Instagram all the time because I'm a nerd, but basically nature never rushes. It never stresses about how it's going to grow. It never asks where the sun is going to come from, where water is going to come from. It just exists and it just knows. So when I'm in nature and everything feels totally right, it's because it's the natural flow of life that is around you. Like that's just it. It's like we get so caught up in like the noise and the distractions that we kind of forget like everything that we need is always supplied to us. We don't have to go stressing and striving and chasing for things. But even like I was talking about earlier of change, nature has seasons too. You don't see the tree stressing out about it's going to lose its leaves in 3 months and not knowing if it's going to grow them back. It's just like, yeah. So sometimes my leaves change colors and fall off and then new ones grow back. It's not freaking out about it. It's just, It just is. It allows the course of life to happen. So anytime like I'm really just in my head and swirly and trying to like find direction, I immediately will turn everything off, my phone, my computer. I disconnect in order to reconnect. And I just go out and I'm in nature and I'm totally present and everything immediately comes into focus. So there's that. The other thing too, like I mentioned, is breath. If you can just take the time, 3 minutes, it's not like I'm asking for 3 hours. Anytime you are spiraling, anytime you're confused or lost, if you can just cut off all the noise, sit by yourself in silence in your car or wherever you are, and just inhale and totally exhale. Totally exhale. We remember to inhale. It's the exhale part that's hard. Totally let go. You're back in the flow. Within 3 minutes, you're back in the flow because you're not stopping the natural inhale and exhale, allowing and releasing. Sometimes breath is all that you need. Movement, the other one that I mentioned, the reason that I love movement, and this goes back to fitness, is because movement for me is such an emotional and deeper spiritual connection than just getting in shape and being fit. Movement to me is very healing. It releases emotions. It releases energies. From an actual physiological standpoint, it is literally the way that your body detoxes and strengthens itself. It regulates itself and its immune system through movement. I love movement though, because if I have energy, especially energy that's heavy, and I'm talking emotional energy. So if it's like in my head, if I'm really in my head, or if I'm really just like feeling down and everything inside of me feels heavy, movement immediately helps me get present, and it also helps me to release it. So going back to one of the lessons I said earlier of nothing outside of you is more powerful or stronger than what is inside of you. Sometimes it does not feel that way. It feels like everything outside of you is working against you. And then it starts to feel heavy inside of you. So in those moments, I love movement because what it does, and I mean, this actually happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I was trying to deadlift and I'm like, God, I am having a really, really hard time being present and just lifting the damn weights. This happens all the time. But when that happens, that's immediately my mind letting me know, like, you're not present at all. Your mind is focused on this situation and this person and worried about this and this. Just get your head right here in this moment. Put all of your energy and focus on you and what you're doing right now and remind yourself there is nothing outside of you that is stronger than what is inside of you. And almost every single time when I do that, by the end of the workout, I'm like, okay, that's all I needed to do. I just needed to remind myself of that. I put my energy back inside, not outside. I trust myself. I know that everything's working out perfectly. So movement is great, so much more than just a physical component of helping you with your health. It is an energetic process of helping you move through emotions, through thought patterns, getting centered, and getting grounded. So the other two of this with lesson number 5 with music and journaling. So the reason I love music is, one, I just love music. I love it. And if you're like a close friend of mine, you've probably gotten 1,000 songs from me that I love. But it's because music literally has been scientifically proven to raise your energetic vibration when you're listening to it. That's why a lot of times you have an emotional reaction to songs. It is literally changing your physiological state just by listening to it. So if items number 1, 2, and 3 don't work, nature's not doing it, workout's not doing it, and breath isn't doing it, I will totally channel all that energy and just listen to music, or I'll play music or something, because I know I'm like, this will create some sort of emotional reaction in me to help me in some way. Whether it's something I'm refusing to feel, maybe I need to cry, maybe I need to get empowered, I don't know, but music usually does that. And then the last thing with journaling, pen to paper. Pen to paper, man, when you are stuck in your head, and again, this has also been scientifically proven, not just from like a mental, emotional health standpoint, but with retaining information, you remember things that you write down way more than if you just think about them. It's because your brain processes it easier because there's a physical connection instead of just a mental one. Pen to paper is physically putting your thoughts down in front of you and getting it out of your head. Sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. And I call this either mind dumping or word vomiting. Some days you don't need to be super positive and meditate and all that. Some days you just need to freaking write out all of it without a filter. Everything you're thinking, feeling, who you're frustrated with, what you're angry about, what you're upset, sad about, whatever it is, you just need to totally word vomit on paper and release it and have that physical, mental connection. And then once it's done, it's like, whew, all right, it's out. Now I can move forward. That's why it's so healing. So those are my greatest healers that are always in my toolbox for lesson number 5 are nature, movement, breath, music, and pen to paper. So I just wanted to do this podcast episode on sharing that stuff with you guys because it is the end of the year. And I know a lot of people are figuring out how they want to move forward for 2022, what lessons they learned, what they want to change, where they're frustrated and where they're not. And I hope these top 5 lessons that I have learned for myself helps give you some tools or maybe some insight. One, to just be compassionate with yourself and understanding. Don't be your greatest enemy. Be your greatest ally. Befriend yourself, sit with yourself, get quiet with yourself, and trust yourself. Trust yourself, trust your life, trust your journey. Know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You have everything that you need inside of you. Just trust the answers that you are being given. And when you get scared or you're stuck in the midst of the struggle, remember that 1, if you're scared, if you make the wrong choice, it will be corrected for you. So you don't have to be scared. But number 2, if you're in the midst of the struggle, ask yourself how you can find purpose and see that this experience is serving you in some positive way so that the struggle becomes your friend and your helper and your teacher instead of the thing that overpowers you and overwhelms you. All right. Whew. That was a lot, and that's enough. But I hope it gives you a lot to think about. I hope it gives you some direction as you move forward with us coming up on a new year. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell me. Please be sure to subscribe. I love when you guys let me know that you enjoyed an episode because it keeps me inspired knowing that you're actually getting something out of this. But I hope you close out this new year feeling really good, feeling really excited and optimistic about the direction of your life. And if not, well, you have 5 different things that you can do now to help you get in that mindset. Thank you so much for listening to the Phoenix Rising podcast, and I will see you on the next episode.